Hello, fellow comic book worms. This is Naman. We have Otaku Hyung here and Brian, our special guest of the day. So, Otaku Hyung, please take over and introduce our guest.
Yeah, who's down with LCS? You know me.
You gotta
Um,
dance, Tom. You gotta dance.
I'm not gonna dance. Um, but yeah, I mean, everybody who watches Naman Young and I'm sure, know of our guest today. He's such a foundation for the community. Just a big supporter, and I know everybody is so engaged in his content, and he's engaged with everybody in the community's content. And of course, we've got a big project, his big project, the Comic Book Community Awards, and we're going to get into that. But yeah, let's welcome Brian LCS to the show. Brian, go ahead and kind of introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys having me on. Yeah, YouTube channel. I've been on YouTube for a little bit over a year now. I kind of jumped right in with the Comic Book Community Awards last year, and now we're in the second year. But I do comic book hauls. I just started an interview series myself, the Comic Book Community 411. And I really just I've enjoyed being engaged with the community, watching everybody else's content. It's really fun to see all the different channels and just comic books too. Just seeing a ton of different comic books that I may not collect personally, but to get to see books that are 50, 60 years old, and just all of the other books that people like to collect it's really been enjoyable, being part of the community and seeing all of that. So
Yeah, that's what I've appreciated about your content and your channel. I mean, that seems to be the focus of everything you do, just promoting and supporting members of this community on YouTube and social media. Um, you've been collecting comics for a long time. Can you kind of give us your origin story? What got you into books, when you started collecting, what you were collecting?
yeah, I mean, I started as a teenager, probably, well, maybe even before I was a teenager, maybe 10, 11 years old. I've always been into superheroes. I mean, I remember as a probably 4 or 5 year old watching the Adam West Batman on TV, and I think that was my first really introduction to superheroes. And I had my all of my toys as a kid were all superhero related, Mego, and then I discovered Spider-Man. And growing up on Long Island, I was a couple counties over from Queens, and so as a young kid, I thought Spider-Man was real, and I could go take a half-hour car ride and go see where he lives, and he was swinging around New York City. So that was the connection for me, and he instantly became my favorite character. Um, and I can't remember for the life of me. I can't remember like my first comic book, or when I had my first book, but I remember from a very early age, going through the magazine rack at the local 7-Eleven and buying books, there. And I had a 7-Eleven that wasn't that far from my house I could walk to. And I would go pick up books, just, I had no idea when they came out, how, often they were published, but, that was like the first stop when I walk into the store,
Right.
go check out the magazine rack and see what comics were there. And I just would pick up books. Then as I got older, I discovered comic book shops, and there was a local LCS, that was by, a big shopping mall, one of our local shopping malls. And before I was able even to drive, there was a bus. I could take the bus to the mall and then go to the comic book store. And so
Yeah,
once
that's
I discovered that, then it was like, oh, now I could buy a lot more books.
the
Um,
11. When was that about approximately?
that was like the early 80s.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, I mean, I started driving in like 86, 87.
oh,
So this is prior to that,
Same question.
Metarog. We were having a discussion
yeah, I saw you guys last
last
night.
night.
Metarog filled in. Yeah, you guys did a long stream last night. But yeah, so that's how I, and like I said, I, for the life of me, I can't remember, my first couple books, but it was the 7-Eleven, first, and then discovering finally a comic book shop.
Yeah, it's we really live in a different time from when I
Hold on, guys.
was.
I forgot about my sponsor. You drinking anything tonight?
I'm not drinking anything. I'm
Just water.
water. Okay.
Cheers, bud. Cheers.
I mean, I actually began collecting, in the in the mid '80s, but I was buying comic books in the early '80s, and even back then, I mean, comic shops were a thing, and there were a couple in my neighborhood. But really, the main channel for most kids, even in the early '80s, was the 7-Eleven. I mean, that was where you got comics.
Right.
It was, and they sold them on the racks, the spinner racks, and yeah, I mean, that was the channel for, I would say, an entire generation of kids. And then yeah, around the early mid '80s, you started to see more and more comic shops. And I remember when I walked into my first comic shop, and I saw it was Batman, The Dark Knight Returns. I saw that cover on the wall. It was a wall book, and I was just like, wow, okay, this is cool. Like, they had so many comics in that shop. That's a different experience altogether. So yeah, basically, yeah, you collect Spider-Man still, or what are some of the, I guess, the
Yeah.
books that keep
I mean,
catch
I
your
first
attention?
started with Spider-Man, and at the time it was really amazing and spectacular Spider-Man. But then right around that, in the mid '80s, we had Web of Spider-Man, and then McFarlane. We had the Spider-Man series. So I was collecting Marvel Team Up because Spider-Man was, it was mainly Spider-Man. So I was basically collecting, anything that had to do with Spider-Man at that time. And I've told the story before. The difference back then was there were 12 issues a year, one annual, no variant covers. So it was very easy to collect those books because it was 13 issues a year. That was basically it. Even though I was collecting multiple Spider-Man titles, it was still only 4 or 5 books a month.
Yeah.
Now that when I got back in, there were no grading back in the '80s. There were no variant covers. So when I got back in, I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? There's 40 covers for, this book. And, I had to learn about grading and everything. So it was really a different world when I first started collecting compared to now.
Hold on now. Let me ask something. Do you remember when Simpsons had shows? When was that when they were showing this fat guy? He had his own comic book store.
Yeah, he's still in the show now. Yeah, he pops up.
Yeah, when was that Simpsons show?
Well,
The
the
Simpsons premiered in '88, I believe.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
88, 89. Yeah.
I never collected comic books from the comic book store. The first time I learned about it when I came back to collecting. So I guess when they had a Simpsons show, I go, oh yeah, there's a actually comic book store rather than going to convenience stores. That's when I found out. But I'm wondering when that was.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was like 80, yeah, 88, 89. Because I remember first discovering The Simpsons when I was in college. So it was right around that time frame.
For me, a local comic shop has to have a good wall book section. I feel like that's the foundation of any, because you have a lot of comic shops now, they focus a lot on toys and all this other stuff,
Right.
which is great. But for me, like an old schooler, you got to have probably like a nice selection of wall books that are presentable and really draw people in. But yeah.
And that's one of the things that a lot. So on Long Island, I have a number of comic book shops. I can throw a rock and basically hit a book. I mean hit a store. I have so many different options, but a lot of my stores that I've been to don't have a lot of back issues or a lot of older Silver Age books. It's more modern stuff. I'll dig through the back bins and it's really just stuff from the last 5-10 years. And I
Yeah.
see people digging through bins at other stores throughout the country on YouTube, and I'm amazed at the older books that some of those shops have, where, like I said, we don't have that here. It's more modern.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a similar one. They focus more on modern. They do have back issues in the boxes that you have to hunt, but everything's overpriced, and I'm just like, not going to shop here. And they didn't have a wall book section, so that was a big sort of red flag, I guess.
Right.
All right, so so you said you're collecting Spider-Man. I know there are probably some other things you collect because you have you sort of collect everything, right? And you're mentioning it was easy to collect books back in the day. Spider-Man was pretty easy, but now Spider-Man with all the titles and the variants, that would be more difficult to do. What are some of the other things that I guess catch your fancy, or you like some maybe oddball things that you collect?
Well, I mean, there's certainly other characters that I enjoy reading. Wolverine, I collected the original. I had the original Wolverine series, limited series. I do enjoy a bunch of the other, characters. I've really always been a big Batman fan too, but I don't really read much of him today because it's kind of the same as Spider-Man, where there's so many different books and storylines. When I got back into collecting, I really didn't know where to start with Batman. But I am thinking about maybe jumping back into the Batman title. Chip Zdarsky's taking it over, so I think that might be a good jump in point for me. But I mean, I was into toys as a younger kid. Like I said, I kind of had a Toy Story moment. I had all superhero stuff. It was only superhero stuff. And then when Star Wars came out, all of my superhero stuff went in a box and was put away. And then I had nothing but Star Wars toys. So it was, just everything Star Wars until I, kind of got older, where I didn't, I wasn't collecting toys or playing with toys. Then I got older and started to, drive, and then it was hanging out with friends and that kind of stuff. So, but I kind of had two distinct phases. It was superhero toys till I was like 9 or 10, and then it was just Star Wars from then out. And I actually had saved. I was pretty meticulous about keeping my stuff in good condition, and I put all the superhero stuff, packed it all up, and we didn't have room in the house at the time, and so we had a detached garage, and we put it up in the rafters up there. But we had a fire, and
Oh no!
that garage was leveled. Everything was destroyed in the garage,
Oh no!
and all of those superhero toys were toast. And I mean, I had the original Batcave. I had all of the Mego figures. I had the Batmobile. I had the Spider Van. I had the Hulk van. Whatever was out that was Mego in the '70s, I pretty much had.
Oh my goodness!
But it all was destroyed.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah,
I wish I kept my GI Joe now.
but and then I had all my Star Wars toys, and I mean, I had Millennium Falcon, I had the Death
my
Star, I had
goodness.
an X-wing, Land Speeder.
Oh God!
I had a case of.
You're making me hurt.
That is hurt. Don't
Well,
tell
no,
me that you
that
saved.
survived.
Okay.
That wasn't in the fire. But when in college, I needed money, and a friend was having a yard sale,
Yeah.
and so I put it up in a yard sale, and I think I got like $100 for the whole lot of everything.
Oh no!
And so,
Oh no!
just two kind of one was I couldn't control a fire. It just happened, and then young college kid needed money in his pocket, and sold all of that stuff. And
Wow, the Millennium Falcon. That's
Millennium Falcon is where
that's a big
my heart just
money.
broke.
I regret.
That's
I mean,
big
I had the
money.
Death Star with the little trash compactor and the little styrofoam, the foam rubber pieces in it with the
Yeah.
little
Did you have
alien.
the Did you have the Darth Vader action figure case?
No, I did not. I had the
That
like the
was the
vinyl
best.
case that had the trays,
Okay.
and it was like double tray. Every tray had 2 or 3 action figures in it. So I probably had 100, 125
Yeah.
action figures. And what really burns me more about selling that is that now that I have children, all 3 of my kids are huge Star Wars fans. They
Oh,
all love Star Wars,
yeah, that would
and
have
just
been.
to have to have that stuff again to share with them as they grew up would have been great. So,
Oh man,
but at the time I needed the money. I needed whatever I sold it for, and I actually sold it to somebody it was a father um, who was introducing his kids to the movies at the time, and so he bought it so that he could share it with his kids. So I know it went to a good home, and like I said, I needed the money, so
so that's Toy Story 3. Is that Toy Story 3 there?
Oh, but still, that's got to be tough. Yeah.
yeah, they were definitely like looking back, like, oh wow, I wish some of those things didn't happen, but
Yeah.
not much I can do about it now.
Well, I think we all have.
Kevin, he got his on fire too. He lost his everything.
Yeah, we have all a story like that because I collected GI Joe and Transformers and Star Wars. I had all those toys, and they were just, I guess, thrown out by my mom or something at some point, and so it happens. Yeah, but definitely no one foresaw like they would become treasures.
Right.
Right. Okay, so I know you've got some books for us, and we're gonna dive into your collection.
Sure.
And this is a real treat because I know a lot of people who watch your channel and also follow you. You introduce a lot of books and you show a lot of your collection, but this is sort of like we're getting a window into what some of your favorite books are. So
Yes.
I think this is going to be special. All right.
So the first book I'm going to show you is Amazing Spider-Man 80.
Wow.
So this is the only.
Oh, wait a second. Let me see.
Nice.
This is the only ASM book under 100 that I own. I haven't started to fill this. But this is the reason why this book is special is this is a birthday book. This was
that's right.
Published the month and the year that I was born. So this was a pickup that I wanted. I've shown this before, but it's just it's not a key book or anything, but it is a sub 100 Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And like I said, published the month and year I was born. So
anytime you have Chameleon in a book, because Chameleon's the first ASM villain that appears. So anytime you have Chameleon in a book, it's special. Yeah.
So that's really I'm happy to have that book. And this is another book that I had. This is just
nice.
Yeah, McFarlane cover.
Nice.
He was like a game changer for me when his art came out. When he started drawing Spider-Man, it was art that I hadn't seen before. And I was a fan of John Byrne, and John Byrne's a very good artist, but very I don't know best way to describe, but just very steady, very very kind of classic work. But when McFarlane's work came out with Spider-Man, it was like, wow, that's it just there was something a little bit different than than we've seen before.
Yeah.
Let me ask you on this one. Marvel Tales is normally in reprint, right?
Yeah, so this is a reprint.
Yeah. So McFarlane did a big run. Yeah, he did a big run of covers on the Marvel Tales. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So this is this was just a great cover that I just so this was a book that I had originally purchased.
Is that a reprint of the first? Is that a reprint of the first Doc Ock?
I forget
Spider-Man number 3.
Which reprint this is, and like I said, this was strictly just this is a great cover. So
I love Doc Ock covers. I love Doc Ock covers. Yeah. So that's a great cover. I got to get that.
I think
I got to get that book.
Yeah, some of the Marvel Tales books that McFarlane did, just the covers are they're really
Okay.
good.
Me and
And
Raj.
then,
Oh
so,
yeah, nice.
so this was a
That's a
book that I
beautiful
picked
book.
up at the 7-Eleven. So newsstand, so
Issue number
this is.
one.
Yeah.
I actually have two of these. Actually, I have three of these.
You got the newsstand copy though.
Yeah. So this was a book. So when I got back into collecting, I had this book raw, and I sent it. I discovered CGC and sent this in. I never had it cleaned. I never had it pressed. So this is a
Wow.
book that I purchased off the magazine rack, from a 7-Eleven, read it,
Yep.
and then had it sent in.
Wow, you take care of your book, man. That's
So-
sharp.
It's an amazing. First of all, the Charles Vest cover here is just an amazing. I mean that when you talk about what makes you want to buy comic books, when that black suit came out and that because everybody remembers that Web of Spider-Man when it came out, that was like, you just wanted that book.
Right.
Because of the cover. It was just that everybody wanted that book. So yeah, that's a great book.
Yeah, and I have some other. Where are they here? Some raw books. So this is more modern books.
Mm-hmm.
So this is Ultimate Fallout 4. This is the second print, the variant print.
Wow, that's the money book. That is the money book.
Now this is when I got back into collecting in 20 end of 2020, early 2021. These are some of the books that I picked up because I knew I didn't really know about Miles. Because I wasn't really actively, collecting or reading any books. So this is the Comic Fest variant.
Whoa.
And then I have I don't own the original, but this is the second print of Ultimate Fallout.
Wow, those are all money books. Wow.
So yeah, these are books that I definitely want to get sent off and have graded. I just haven't done it yet, with the backlog at CGC, and so I'm kind of wondering if I want to send them to CBCS, or I'm not sure what I want to do. But I do have like a stack of books that I want to send. I just haven't done it yet.
Yeah, there's been a lot of I think talk about CGC's latest move where they're basically putting a lot of the notes that they put in the label, and they're putting it actually in the grader's notes. And so you really don't have an idea of what's specifically inside what's wrong with the book. You just have a grade there. And I know that kind of rubbed a lot of collectors the wrong way,
Right.
Especially like people who are buying. Now they have to rely on the goodwill or just their sellers not, pulling the wool over their eyes. What are your thoughts on CGC? Sort of, it seems like they had a dominant position, but with moves like that, do you feel like CGC's maybe?
Yeah. I still think there's certainly I think most collectors think that CGC is the standard, right? It's the top, grading company. CBCS, just based on, prices or resale, you're seeing that CBCS books maybe not go for as much as a CGC. So I don't know why that is. I mean, it's, ultimately it's the same book. Inside, are they not, or, people just not confident in CBCS? But we've seen CGC have so many different, issues with, things in cases, scratch case, making mistakes being made. So I'm not sure. I think there's certainly an opportunity, and I think over time, CBCS will certainly, they recently made some changes with some of their turnaround times and things like that. And CGC seems like there's still a backlog of books that have been sent in for, for some people for, 9, 10, 11 months. But then there's some other books that are coming back that you submitted after that are coming back quicker. So it seems like a very strange situation of what's going on with CGC. So yeah. I think, time will tell where we stand. Yeah. But yeah, there's been, CGC's had price increases, some of the grader notes, things that they're doing. Um,
Their customer
so,
service is not very customer
right,
service minded
right,
either.
right.
They tend to deflect a lot of responsibility on. But anyway, I'm going to be submitting a CGC soon, like a 10-book submission soon. But I don't, and I have the option to renew my annual subscription. And I don't know if I will, because I just think CBCS deserves a chance. And I really think they're a label design change away from really taking all of CGC's business. Because
Right.
like at this point, like people are kind of waiting for CBCS to kind of step up, and they have. They're a lot of their policies, a lot of their pricing is really good. But again, I think people's problems is they weren't first, and also the label is not as
Right.
nice.
Yeah, that's certainly one of the biggest things I've heard is the label, right? Just the number is just not, where people think it should be. But their case, their new cases that I've seen and I've heard people talk about, the CBCS cases seem very, very solid, very sturdy.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Yeah.
I
If you
mean,
really get past that label, it's really the better product in
Yeah.
a lot of ways, because they do verify the signatures as well. Like, they're not like CGC where they have to witness it. You can
Right.
just send in a book, and they have people that authenticate signatures, and they do it. Although people have been able to get around that, but still, it's a good service.
yeah, but you get. I don't have the dancers. I should ask.
If I would have known, I would have sent them. Yeah, I could have sent them.
I should ask for that dance video. I know that.
Naman Hyung's gonna dance. He's gonna dance.
No, yeah, I don't understand that if you are claiming that you're a collector and you're not you don't resell, and I think a lot of people are claiming that, hey, I just like collecting, right? But I do like to have a preservation and third party grade your books. Then why it doesn't matter it's a CGC or CBC? Once you said that, it should matter who the graders are, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I understand if you want to flip your comic books, then
Right.
then CGC matters. But if you're a collector, it shouldn't matter, right?
It shouldn't. This is the thing about slabs, though. I think slabs are the best way to present your books, if that's a thing, So I know having it in a top loader like this, I know it's protected and it presents well. But for me to have it in like a hard plastic, like where it's sealed and it has all the label on what it is and what the grade is, it's just a great way to show you have a high grade copy of the book, and it presents like a good presentation of the book.
And I think ultimately too, right, if you were to sell any of those books, there's no question, right? It's certified, it's graded. A raw book is up into interpretation, right? So when it's graded, there's no debate. It is what it is. And it's like you said, it's protected. And you can get fair market value for that book. A raw book is, and I sold a bunch of books, raw books, which that was another one of my regrets. When I first got back in, I was selling some of my old collection, and I sold a bunch of raw books that if I would have taken the time and had them graded, I could have sold them for a lot more, or maybe even that if I would have sent them for grading may have prevented me from parting with them. I may have ended up keeping them because I would have liked the way they looked in the in the slab. But
yeah, I think Tylox also brought up a good point. Like, oftentimes you can get CBCS and PGX books for a lot cheaper than fair market value for slabs or that graded book. That's a great opportunity to go, because the grading it's not like the grading is off by a lot on other. And I know CGC they tend to grade a little stricter now these days, right. So that they're trying to establish themselves as sort of this, I guess, more that they
It's
pay more attention to grading. But I feel like PGX and CBCS books, the ones that are high grade, those are still high grade books. So, by all means, if they're cheaper, go get them. I mean, you should
Oh,
definitely,
sure.
yeah, take advantage of that. Okay, so uh, we're kind of wondering what got you into collecting. So we know you collect comic books. We know, you've shown off some of your books, great Spider-Man collection. But what do you think? Why do you collect what you do? Why is this community so special to you? What is it about comic books? What is it about wanting to own these just pieces of paper, really, that drives you to be in the hobby?
Well, initially, when I was younger, when I first started, was just the stories, right? I was a Spider-Man fan. I wanted to, read more stories about Spider-Man. Um, and so that's why, and I would collect anything that had Spider-Man on it. Um, now coming back into the hobby, it's, I initially got back in, and I was really kind of selling my initial collection that I had collected in the 80s. But then, I came to YouTube, I started to watch videos on YouTube, and then I said, oh, maybe I should take a ride to my LCS. I needed some bags and boards. And, then I started looking at some of the new covers and the new art, and I got sucked back in, pretty quickly, because it had been so long, and a lot had changed within collecting, but it's still at the heart of it is um, wanting to read good stories, and look at great art.
Yeah,
The level of art today, I think, is it's just
yeah.
it's insane. Some of the Spider-Man, the recent Spider-Man reboot, Amazing Spider-Man #1. Like I said, there were probably 30 covers, and I probably wanted to own 29 of them. I mean, they were all really amazing art.
yeah,
So I mean, that's what really kind of keeps me, and I, for me too. There's a little bit of, can I, you know, can I make the hobby pay for itself? Can I maybe buy some books and flip some books to help fund some of the other things that I want to have in the PC? I've purchased a few collections over the last couple of years, and we're able to find a couple gems in those collections and sell them and help fund the payment of that collection, and buying future books. So I think we all kind of look at, I think a lot of collectors look at it from one, collecting their favorites, story, art, characters, but then also, how can they maybe sell some books that maybe are not that important to them, so that they can help fund and increase those great books that they want to keep in their PC. So, I certainly fall into that category.
mhm.
And I'm even kind of considering, I'm going to be going to two cons this year. So I'm going to Terrific Con, which is up in Connecticut in July, and I'm going to New York City Comic Con. And so I'm trying to think of, well, I want to save some money, make sure I have some money just in case if I come across a particular Spider-Man book, or a book that I'd like to add to the PC. But so I'm looking at what I'm buying every week at the comic shop, new comic book day, and saying, well, are some of these books important to me, or would I rather have some of the key books from the Amazing Spider-Man run? So I'm kind of reevaluating how I'm collecting, and maybe kind of trimming back some of the modern books that I'm picking up, so that I can add some of the older books to my PC.
Yeah, I think that's great. Now you mentioned you're selling on eBay as well, right? You have an eBay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I purchased two collections, probably in 2020 and 2021. There was like two different big collections that I had purchased. And so I was selling them on eBay. Some of the books, I went through the collection, and I would keep some of the books for my PC. And then a bunch of the books, I'm selling, and I've sold a good amount of books over the last couple of years. Um, and I'm kind of dwindled down to about 4 long boxes of books that I have for sale. And I'm actually, I think I'm just going to kind of go old school with it and have a yard sale probably in a couple weeks, and just try to get rid of them. And really, the goal there is to bring in some cash that I can save for the cons that are coming up, and hopefully just add books to the PC.
Cool.
Okay, you heard it here. Go to Brian's yard sale, and so those long boxes are mostly what age of comics are they? Copper?
They're like copper, copper age, 80s, 90s. And like I said, a lot of stuff that there's I have a big chunk, a big run of like Superman, some Avengers books.
Wow.
I actually had some Justice League books that Super Russ 9000 was looking to complete a run. So I sent him an AOK like 2 weeks ago, and I just mailed him out another box of this. It was a Justice League series from like the 90s. And
Nice.
I heard him. He had picked up a few of the books and was saying he was looking to complete this run. So I'm like, wait, I think I have those books in one of those long boxes. So I went down
Nice.
and I had all my books down in my basement, a finished basement, and everything's stored properly off the floor. So, but I heard and I'm like, I think I have those. So I would much rather send them to him, because
Yeah.
he's looking to complete that run, than sell them for a couple dollars, make a little bit of money. I had the collection I bought, I've already paid for, and I sold a few books that covered the cost of that entire collection. So anything I sell those books for now is really just kind of gravy.
Wow.
So
Wow, cool. Any Jim Lee X-Men?
no, most of the X-Men that I did have already sold.
Yeah, I'm sure. All right, so I want to focus now our conversation on what you've been working on again from last year through this year, which is the Comic Book Community Awards. Can you tell us about what the awards are about, and go over what all the categories for the awards that you have?
Sure.
And also, where people can go to nominate their picks?
So Naman's got it down below, but it's cbcawards.org. But the idea really started from, prior to me getting back into collecting, I had run a personal finance blog for about 7 years. And so the personal finance space is a very similar niche community to comic book collecting. And so there are a number of people that have, blogs and websites, and even YouTube, accounts that do, personal finance information. And so I had a blog that I basically was sharing our personal story on how my family and I got out of consumer debt, and how we were managing our finances. And it basically, I ran that for about 7 years, and it kind of came to an end where I was really done with running. I really wrote and told as much as I could about our personal story, and it was really time for me to kind of leave that behind. And so I got rid of the blog. Somebody else took it over and is continuing to run it. But I had a kind of gap in time of, what was I doing with my free time now? Because it was something I was doing on the side, like after work and weekends. And so that's how I kind of got back into collecting. But one of the things that I took away from the personal finance world was they had a similar awards for the personal finance community. So for blogs, websites, YouTube channels, Instagram. And so when I came over into the comic book world on YouTube and started my channel, I started to kind of look around and say, are anybody recognizing all of the great work that the YouTube community is doing? Because I found Freaky Louie, and he's doing full on, skits with wigs and props, and so there's so much entertainment value in it as well. in production. So, DJ Links with some of his editing, the rap battle show that he does, the Slab Hub show, Rob Fatstacks. There's so much entertainment and creativeness in the community. I said we should recognize this. And so I basically borrowed the award idea from the personal finance community and adapted it for the comic book community on YouTube. And there was I had a little bit of a learning curve. There were some people that were frustrated with it. I looked at it as we're recognizing everybody's hard work. I thought would be a good thing. I didn't see any negative. I think the misstep that I took in year one was that not everybody was aware of it. And so that was, I think, the biggest complaint. And, that's just growing pains, I think, of trying to start something new. And so this year, now I'm just trying to do a much better job of communicating it out, making sure, all corners of the community are aware of it. But ultimately, like I said, it's really just to recognize the great work that the comic book community does with, on YouTube. And so last year we had 11 categories, and it's, you think of the different types of channels that you have. You have people that do unboxings. You have people that do, pressing and cleaning tips. You have people that do, like periodic shows, a show once a week. You have, best new channel, best lifetime. Because I realized that there were channels now that have been around for a long time, 7, 8, 3, 4, and many years, and have I found channels like Reggie Collects, Comics with Bueller. These guys 15, 20,000 subscribers. 15 or 20,000, which is like here I am at the time with a couple hundred, and these guys have 20,000 people following them. So it was just really an idea of saying, well, how can we recognize all of the great creative, entertaining work that people are doing? And in most cases, it's, they're doing it in their free time. They're not being paid for it. So how can we recognize it? So that was really how the awards came about. And then, now in year two, I got a committee together. I had a small committee last year just to make sure that any of the votes and things coming in were, looked at not only by me, but by a small group. And now this year, the committee is even a little bit bigger, and, I'm looking for feedback from them. And, now we went from 11 categories to 22 categories this year. And, we're just hoping that it's going to be bigger and better. And, as the community and collecting changes every year, we'll kind of evolve with what's happening within the community as far as the categories. I think, next year we may, eliminate some that were in this year and maybe add something new. Like one of the categories we were talking about was maybe an NFT category, because NFT comic books are now starting, but it's kind of early for that. And so, that might be something that we add in the future. Or, somebody recently mentioned, I think it was actually Comic Journey mentioned it, and then somebody else actually brought it up about maybe somebody with maybe a category about best voice.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty good idea.
So we're gonna take feedback from the community and kind of keep an eye on what's happening in the community and adjust with it year after year. But I think so far in year two, things are a little bit smoother. I have a year under my belt of what happened in year one, so I've learned from some of the mistakes, and I'm hopeful it's going to be just bigger and better in year two, and we'll continue to grow.
Best hands. That's not Comic Journey.
Well, yeah. So yeah. I mean, we could have very easily went, like I said, we went from 11 categories to 22. It very easily could have been 35 or 40 categories, because there's so many little different things that you could, create a category for. But I didn't want to go too crazy. I mean, doubling I thought was was a lot.
Oh, I'm
So,
sure that will increase your workload quite a bit,
well,
isn't it?
yeah. I mean, certainly, just the award show getting, collecting all of the votes now for 22 categories, and then trophies and things like that. So, but I think it was a step in the right direction. I don't think in year 3 that we'll go from 22 categories to 44. We won't. I don't think we'll double again.
Mhm.
I
Do we
think the
really want
max.
to promote trolls? Do we really want to promote trolls?
I mean, yeah, we could have that.
Troll category. Well, this is really a great. I think it's a great thing for the community. It's really one that every not only creator but anybody who's into comic books and following along, even if you're not creating comic books, if you're just following people on YouTube because you have a passion for this hobby, it's something you should definitely get behind this project, and vote for your favorite channels and your favorite comic book community members. So I
As
think
long
it's
as people
wonderful.
don't take it seriously, I think this is just great. I've seen other community. I'm not going to name the community. I've seen other community that started it, and it became a little too serious. The jealousy and all that. But
Well, yeah, and it's a fine line, right? Because I'm a competitive person, right? And I don't like to lose, and I can understand, from if you're a finalist, you have 5 finalists, right? Only one person is the winner, and
yeah,
so those other 4 people, could feel bad because they didn't win. So it's a fine line, and it's really, like I said, it's really to recognize the channel and the work and the entertainment value that all of the community brings. But like I said, I do understand that people could have feelings hurt, and so I'm trying to avoid that. But again, it is you ultimately have one person that
Yeah,
wins
you
in
got
the category,
yeah.
so
That's something you can't
it's the
avoid.
fine
Yeah,
line.
yeah. You can't
you
avoid
can if
people's
you try to
feelings getting hurt.
satisfy everybody, then I don't think it will go.
Yeah,
There's no go. But
yeah. I know. I voted for Naman Hyung for a bunch of categories. I know
oh
I did.
really?
Um, but
I
yeah,
bet it was.
there's 2 tiers. Can you talk about the tiers? So there's people with less than 100 subscribers.
So there's 3. Yeah, there's so under 1,000, between 1,000 and 5,000, and above 5,000. There is a best new channel category or a best unknown channel. So a channel that has under 100 subs.
Yeah,
So we added that was some of the biggest feedback we had from year 1 was, well, if I have 500 subs and I'm going up against a channel that has 5,000, how can I win? It's
Yeah.
yeah,
it's unfair, and that makes sense. And so that's why we added the tiers for 3 different categories. So we have 3 categories in a under 1,000, 3 in 1,000 to 5, and then 3 above 5,000 to
5,000.
hopefully even the playing field so it's more like for like. So you know my channel isn't up against Bueller, who's got 20,000 subscribers, right?
Yeah,
Because he can just say, hey, go vote for me, and if he gets
exactly.
10% of his audience, he's going to have a lot more votes than I could ever get, right?
Yeah,
So that was just try to level the playing field a little bit for some of those particular categories. And that, like I said, that was probably one of the biggest um, feedback items that I received from year 1.
yeah. And it makes sense that the tiers definitely make it a lot. It makes it because you really do
job,
have a range of influencers out there. So there's definitely
Right.
the people that have the large followings, and then there are just the community members that are just doing their thing, like happy to just post what they're collecting and happy with just the minimal amount of comments. So yeah, it's that's what
Right.
makes this
And
community
and
great.
everybody has a different goal, right? Some people want to get to 1,000, get monetized. Some people will get to 1,000 and don't ever want to monetize. and then others maybe trying to build a business, right? Some of the larger channels, um, and some channels are, using it as a platform to help, with maybe, sales and auctions and other things that they do. So there's a lot of different, directions that channels are taking. So, that was the idea of the tiers, was to try to hopefully, like I said, level the playing field. And I think there's enough other categories that are very kind of, I wouldn't say generic, but specific enough where, if you do a certain thing, if so there's a review category, reviewing of comic books. So if you review comic books, there's an award category for that. If you if you press and clean books, there's a category for that. So we try to add enough categories that fit the kind of different things that people do within the community, and hopefully be able to recognize a large section of the community. So
Yeah,
I mean, if
brilliant.
let's say Korean Press, and if you nominate the 5 people are recognized and 1 person wins, you still have 5 people being recognized. So
right,
Yeah.
right, yeah, and that's really the goal. But again, I understand, right? Being competitive, if I was nominated and I lost, I still would feel, oh wow, I wish I would have won. But there also is, something in just being a finalist. So
Great.
yeah, yeah.
All right. So all the community members that are here, I'm sure most of you have gone and nominated your community awards, but that's just one part of it. Nominations are one part of it. The other part is the community has to promote this. So there's many ways you can promote this on social media, Instagram, whatever. You can, if you're doing a giveaway, you can also promote the awards as part of the giveaway. So there's a lot of things you can do. Please take advantage of whatever power your channel has to promote this very important award. Let's see this thing grow, and let's see, more people within our community get recognized for the great work they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of support. A lot of people have been sharing content. So I have a separate, CBC Awards Instagram, and I share posts there. And a lot of people have been, adding them to their story or sharing them. And there's been a lot of mentions. A lot of community members mentioned the awards in, some of their, videos or live streams. We've had, several people do an open nomination where they've done a video and saying, here, this is how I'm deciding on nominations.
I
Naman
let
did
my
one.
dogs do the talking.
Yeah. So, and that's all good things that just kind of help spread the word. Because, even a channel, no matter the size of your channel, you could have somebody who doesn't follow me and who's not aware of it. And so by you mentioning it will help, make that 1 or 2 people aware of it. And then it just, it kind of continues to grow. You tell 2 friends and they tell 2 friends, and it's just that, that's the way, we, other than, running some big advertising campaign, it's really word of mouth. So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just tell your friends, tell
Right.
people, again, just promote it, get it out there. Tell us when these awards are going to be, sort of when the final
Hey, Sleepy.
nominees are going to be announced.
Yeah. So right now we're still in the open nomination period, and that runs through July 23rd. And then on August 19th, the 5 finalists for each category will be announced. And then we open up voting for the finalists, and that runs for about 12 weeks. And then the actual award show will be December 3rd. It's basically, the way I've laid it out is that the award show will always be the first Saturday in December, whatever date that is. So when I look at next year's awards, I'll look at the first Saturday in December and kind of work backwards from there for nominations and then finalists. And but for this year, like I said, finalists announced in August. Finalist voting will be from August to November, and then the winners are announced in December, first Saturday in December.
Yeah, we're right at the middle point right now, right?
Yeah, we're still very early, but yeah, so it's basically 12 weeks of nominations, and this past Saturday, yesterday was week 6, so we have about 6 weeks to go. But the good news is, when I looked at the amount of nominations that have been submitted already for this year, we've already matched the amount that we had last year. So halfway in, we've already duplicated what we did last year. So it's definitely growing. So more people are aware of it. So which is a good thing. And I'm seeing a lot of the categories. I took a peek at some of the nominations, and a lot of the categories are wide open. Meaning, there's no real front runners. There's so many different channels that are being nominated for the different categories, which is great to see, because that means there's so many different favorite channels. And the vote too is, based on the feedback in the form. When you submit your form, it's about a 50-50 breakdown. So meaning 50% of the people that have submitted nominations are YouTube creators, and the other 50 is just audience members, people that don't have YouTube channels. So it's a pretty good mix. And with 6 weeks to go, I'm hopeful that we'll continue to get nominations in, and I'm excited to see the finalist list, myself. And even last year, going through the nominations, I discovered a bunch of new channels that weren't even on my radar. So there's the community is so big, and there's so many different corners of it, that I don't know, 12 months. No, I'm like 15 months in to having my own channel, and I'm still discovering new channels every day, which is great. It means the community's growing. There's new channels coming on. So it's exciting to see, the energy that we have within the community.
Yeah. What you just said made me realize, like, it is a very special, unique community. Because you have, like, when we talk about like the nerd or geek community, like, people are into games, people are into cards, people are into lots of different things, and they kind of all intersect and are integrated with one another. Like, you just don't have comic book collectors. You have comic book collectors into, like, maybe manga and video games and cards or Pokemon, whatever things that people are into. Even within the comic book community, it's so diverse.
Oh, sure.
And what's great to see is, I don't know if you saw some of the posts from community members from MegaCon. You had all these people gathering at MegaCon from different parts of the country who are connected on social media. They're part of this, social media community, but they get together, in person, right, at an offline, in real life, in real life, at an offline event. They take pictures, they have dinner, they connect, and they're automatically connected just from the passion for the hobby, right? And when I see things like that, I'm just like, yeah, that's what's amazing about growing a community like this. And that's what I think people need to get behind this award program, because it really kind of, you identify with the award show, you identify with the people that are being recognized, and you create these bonds with people that go beyond just these, our social media world, but into the real world. So
yeah, well, it's instant connection, right? We immediately have something in common, whether we collect comic books or cards or pop figures or whatever it is. There's that instant connection because of the that we collect.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a big group going to Heroes Con at the end of the month.
Yeah. Yep. I'm excited for you guys. That should be fun to see everybody get together. Yeah.
I know you can make a bold prediction, Brian, but you mean to make some bold predictions?
You're gonna make some. You're gonna make some bold predictions.
Naman's just gonna pick his favorites.
I think Alex the Mighty is going to win the hair challenge.
He has a nice mullet.
Sorry,
But
Jim.
there's some mustaches out there. Some other guys with some nice hair. So we'll see. I think that's one of the fun categories. I'm so glad we added, because that seems to be a category that everybody's talking about and having a lot of fun with. The best hands, hair, facial hair. We could have very easily broken those out into individual categories, but like I said, we already doubled the category, so that's why they kind of got lumped in together. But based on the feedback so far this year, I would certainly consider next year maybe breaking those out, because everybody's having so much fun with those categories, and that's really what it's supposed to be. We want to have fun with it. So
I think you could even go further and do like actual like content, like best comic fail video, like
right.
Something where you're nominating specific YouTube links. That would be fun to kind of watch as well, to see what people have uploaded over the past year.
Everybody loves the mullet.
Now you do have you say you have a committee?
Yes.
How many people, and can you name them?
I haven't discussed with them if they want to be named, so I wouldn't do that. But without kind of checking with them first. But it's members of the community. I and that's what I did last year. I kind of outreach to people and just said, if you want to be involved in the committee, let me know. And really, all the committee initially did was help me with just shape the awards and the categories for this year. So there were a lot of ideas that were kicked around that didn't make the cut. And then really the committee going forward is really going to just help me validate, because all of the nominations and voting is done by the community. So I just really want a second, a third, a fourth pair of eyes to look at the data that's collected and just validate it, so that I'm not the only one looking at it. So that's really what the committee will help me do, is just look at all of the votes that have come in and help me, like I said, just validate it to make sure it's, accurate.
Yeah.
Right.
And because we got to prevent Tylox from voting for himself for best facial hair.
Well, if he's a committee member and he's he's campaigning for it. I don't know.
Well, so it was interesting. Last year, I had 1, 2, 3, 4 people on the committee who helped me last year, and one of the committee members was nominated, was a finalist. So I didn't share that data with him, because he was a finalist for Best New Channel. And so when I sent, once all the nominations were in, and actually once all the finalist votes were in, I didn't share that category with him so that he would be, surprised. I had the other committee members look at all of it, and then, he only looked at 10 of the 11 categories.
I hope not. I find hard to believe that it's just a spin, right? It's a lie that the CGC community members, or sorry, comic book community members, the what is it? The high profile comic community members that wanted the stuff off the label. That's hard to believe. All right. Well, yeah, Brian, it's been a great conversation. Let people know, what you got going on in the channel before we take off. Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah. Usually Mondays I do, mail call, and then Wednesdays, I don't. Wednesdays is kind of whatever I have whatever topic comes up. Sometimes I'm doing, VRs for other channels for contests or shout outs. But Fridays, I always premiere a Comic Book Community 411. It's my new interview show. So a bunch of new guests that have coming on. Tylux was just on last Friday. So if you haven't seen that, go check that out. Wednesdays I usually do new comic book day stuff. I do a reoccurring reviews of the Amazing Spider-Man. So we're three issues in of the new series. I've been reviewing those, once the books come out. But the Comic Book Community 411 new interview show that premieres on Friday. So I've been lining up, different guests within the community. And what I really like about that show is we do it pre-recorded. It's not live, so I can really just kind of talk one-on-one with the community member, get to know them, me to get to know them a little bit better, and then then share it with the rest of the community. So that's been a great series. I really enjoy. I some of the other interview shows that are done. Small Town Collectibles does 10 questions. Gary B has In the Hot Seat with the Usual Suspects. Just I really love those interview shows because you're getting to know, and just like this show, right? You guys are asking me questions. The audience is getting to know me a little bit better, and so those are just some of my favorite shows, and so that's why I kind of started my own. So
yeah, I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
So go check that out. And I know you said you're getting ready for a con soon. What books are you on the hunt for?
I have kind of a cheat sheet, a Google Doc that I kind of keep of what I'm looking. So there's a couple different current modern runs that I've been trying to fill. Miles Morales, the current series, there's a couple books in that run I need to fill. Darth Vader, the current run, there's a couple little issues. So that's more of the modern stuff. But I really want to start the original Star Wars run.
Okay.
That's one because I'm a big Star Wars fan. My kids are my entire family is Star Wars fans. So
Yeah.
I really, that's one of the books that I really want. That whole run I want, so
good.
that
Good
might
luck
be
with
some of the
that.
books that I'm targeting. But, you hear different things about, sometimes books at cons are overpriced. You get the best deals on the last day. So we'll see. I'm not in a hurry. I want to find a good deal, good value, good. They don't have to be all 9/8. Low grade's fine for me, but definitely want to make sure that I'm getting good value when I'm picking up books. So
All right.
Yeah, as long as they're presentable, I think I'm fine with those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
All right.
and
Well,
as an Amazing Spider-Man collector, with the values of some of those early books, low grade is the only way that I'll own some of those books.
yeah. I mean,
Or reprints them.
Yeah,
reprints are fine too. I would
Yeah.
imagine. Yeah. If you just enjoy the books. Yeah. I guess along with I forgot to ask. So, where did you come into Spider-Man? Did you start off with Lee and Ditko, or did you come in later in the
So
Bronze
I
Age?
started, I probably started when I was collecting the 80s was probably like issue 230,
Oh,
in the
okay.
230s.
Fairly late,
So
yeah.
I got the whole Secret Wars, symbiote, suit, and then all the way up to probably about issue 325, 330 or so. It's
Mhm.
kind of like the span that I collected. But people say, "Oh, well, that's 100 issues. That's not really a big run." But again, back in the 80s, that was only 12 issues a year. So that would span multiple years.
Yeah,
100 issues back then
exactly.
was a long
That was
time.
a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
So now they're publishing Spider-Man 3 times a month, so you can go through 100 issues real quick. So
I feel sorry for completionists nowadays.
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
But, so yeah, well, this hour's done. Really appreciate you coming over here and talking to us. This is so much fun. I feel privileged that people like you will come over and talk to us. It's just
Wow, I mean, you guys have been killing it. You know, the series that you did last month with all of the artists. I mean, it was you know, kind of like much must watch. You know, YouTube. Great interviews. You know, the different artists that you had on. And like I said, these are some of my favorite type of streams. Just getting to know community members. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
yeah.
No, thank you for that. And then again, everybody appreciates you. I'm speaking on behalf of all our community members. Thank you for doing what you do. And
Yeah, really
again,
appreciate that.
yeah, please,
CBC or
please keep at it. And we really appreciate it.
I think
Thanks, guys.
Alex the Mighty is going to be our next guest, right? I think
Nice.
he's going to try to promote his
His hair, yeah, his flowing hair.
Yeah, we got Tylex coming on. That'll be a fun show. We're just gonna give him free mic, just free reign of the mic.
All right, thanks chat room guys. You guys were
Thanks, guys.
today. Appreciate you guys.
All right, yeah. Have a great evening, everybody.
Great evening.
Thanks for watching.
What?